Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and in this video what I want to do is talk about customizing the behavior of Console.log. Okay, with like if you're using your own custom objects. So for example, let's create a new file, scratch.js. Okay, and then let's say we were to create a class, so class dog. Okay, and then we're going to just say class, create a constructor, and which will take name and age, and the dog will have a name which equals the name that's passed in, and an age that equals the age that is passed in. Okay, so right now if I were to create a new dog, so we'll just say const Sparky equals new dog, Sparky 6, and then we were the console.log Sparky, it's just going to log the object like any other object. Okay, and let's just kind of demonstrate that. So let me just make a new terminal. Okay, and then we'll just say node scratch.js and see it just logs Sparky. But let's say I wanted to kind of change that behavior. I want it to log something else. There's two ways you could go about this. You could just make a separate, like a separate method that basically that allows you to log the thing. Okay, so in this case I could maybe create a method that says like just make it called log, so I can log the dog, and then say, and then just be like, okay, console.log, and then I'll just console.log a string that just says name is, that should be this.age, this.name, this.age, years old. Okay, I could do this. Okay, so that way instead of console logging, I will just make a call to the special method, sparky.log. This would work. Okay, I get my custom log message. But then the user of your class would then have to know that, oh, okay, if I want this output, I need to use this special method. Okay, wouldn't it be nice if just when they use console.log, which is what most developers are going to do, that it just worked differently? Okay, but the one benefit of this is it's going to work on front end or back end. So whether you're running that JavaScript in the browser or you're running it in Node, this approach will result in, again, you can call the method toString or log, as I did in this case, whatever you want to call it. Now for Node, in Node you could actually change the behavior so that way it'll just do that when you do console.log. Okay, so I'll get rid of this. But instead of calling the method, basically it's the same approach. You just create a custom method. Okay, except the method has to have a particular name. Okay, it has to be called util.inspect.custom. Okay, now this is a built-in variable node. Okay, and it's basically, it's kind of like if you ever watched a video on generators, there's a whole like symbol.iterator, which is like this symbol, and again, a symbol is just like a unique system value. It's like it's not something you can really imagine. It's just, you just have to know the computer has this unique value that there's just one of that you can refer to. This is a symbol that is used to point to the method that's used for inspection, meaning when you run custom log. So when you pass, and then that's why we're using the square brackets, because we're saying that the key for this method is the symbol. Okay, and the square brackets mean, hey, you're passing in a dynamic key. Okay, so I'm saying, hey, I'm going to define this method under this name, and again, this is how a lot of built-in functionality in JavaScript works. There's usually some sort of hidden symbol, and then if you define a function under that symbol, you can change a lot of the behavior, a lot of the default behavior of things. Okay, so that way you can create custom behavior. But now if I do this, custom log should behave differently. Okay, util is not defined. Okay, I might have to import that somewhere. Yes, it's part of the standard node library. Okay, so const util equals require util, because there's the whole util library which has all the stuff built inside of it. So let's try this again. Okay, and you see that it works. Okay, Console.log. Now in this case, so notice what happened here though. It logged it and then gave me back undefined, because what this method should return is what you want to log. So in that case, I don't want to have a console log in here. That's redundant. So that's why I ended up getting the undefined and the separate log. What I want to do is return this. Okay. And see now, when I console log Sparky, instead of giving me sort of the normal output you would get, I get the return of this value. So again, why would you do this? You may have a custom object where the information you want people to see when they log it might be something different. You might want to organize it in a particular way. So you might want to do something like, let's say, I do something like this. Okay. You could say like, you know, dog name, you know, this dot age. And then you might want to put like, make it decorative and say dog age. This dot, oh, that should be this dot age, and this should be this dot name. Okay, and the reason why would you want to do that is going to be more so in Node, less so than in the browser, because in the browser you're not generally console logging things as part of your application. The console logs is really purely like debugging. Well, in Node you may have a server application and you want to be logging things on a regular basis and use those logs to see the behavior of your application, and you might want to log it in a way that's a little bit more useful. Okay, you might be making a library, and when people log the object, you want to make sure that that object displays them the more relevant information in a more useful way, without them having to really think about how they log the information. Okay, like I think a good example of this is like if you ever use like Mongoose and you log the model objects that you get when you do a query, you actually get an object console log, but technically if you actually were to dig under the hood of what's actually kind of going on there with the objects you get back, there's actually like a proxy object that's really referring to another object. So really what you're console logging is the proxy object, which is, I remember, at least in my experience, it ended up, took me a second to kind of realize like why I couldn't refer to certain properties the way I would normally would. So that's a trade-off. You might accidentally disguise things that otherwise would be easier to figure out. But let's try that out. And see, like I get this like nice output. You know, I can sit there and make the output colored using like coloring libraries. I can, you know, I can customize it in a way that might make it more useful for people who are using this class, so that way they can kind of see what they're logging out in a much more visual way, or give it some extra information that's not actually property. So like provide information that they normally would not get just from logging the properties and methods of the class. You know, in case there's anything that like is computed. So like in this case, like let's say you had a person class that had a age and a weight and a height. Okay, so in that case, you know, you might just calculate the BMI. You don't necessarily need the BMI as its own property because you have the inputs. So you might have a BMI method, but when they console log, you might want the BMI to be part of what's logged into the screen. So you might put it into that or something like that. There's a bunch of different ways you can kind of think about this, but I figured it can be useful enough that it's worth making a video on. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. My name is Alex Merced. Have a great day and enjoy. And again, you can do this in any object. Like you can even do it in one-off objects. So if I were to create like an object named Alex, const Alex, so instead of creating a class, I'm just creating a one-off singleton object. You know, I can sit there and be like util dot, and then as you can see, there's a lot of other stuff in util dot inspect dot custom, and just say, hey, you know, and just write a function that returns. And this function does take arguments. I forget what the arguments are off the top of my head, but bottom line is just the idea is that you want to just console log return what you want to return. Alex is a person. Okay, and actually, yeah, it doesn't. Do I need to do it that way? No. Oh, because I didn't write an equal sign up here. There we go. Okay, so then I can do that, and then I can console log Alex. And when I console log the Alex variable, again, this could also be useful to hide properties you don't want people to see. So things that they would normally see during the console log that you don't want them to see, you can then basically just log the properties that you do want visible to to whoever's using the library. So yeah, So that's that. My name is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com. Have a great day and enjoy.